Haha. Okay, so there are two ways that we can introduce this video topic. First, we can say, yes, conflicting reports. That is the entire landscape of NHL rumors and trade talk throughout the course of the offseason. One insider says that a trade is probably not going to happen. Another one says it might. Another one says, hey, there's actually a fit here. Even though a third or a fourth or a fifth insider says that no, this team cannot make a trade for this guy. It's kind of funny. And secondly, I also wanted to say at the beginning of this video, I was seriously contemplating, personally, making a video commentary about the Red Wings and the Canucks, focusing on the Fort Wayne Komets and how Kirill Tyutseyev had signed a deal with this team. I was like, wow, we can combine Vancouver and Detroit news into one video by talking about a former Red Wings prospect signing in the ECHL, and also by talking about Daniel Sprong, who has signed a contract with CSKA Moscow, and now they have a video playing that is loud. I do not want that on my video commentary here. Daniel Sprong signed with CSKA Moscow today, and can you better believe that I seriously was thinking about making a video about these two dudes signing with the ECHL and KHL teams that they signed with? Well, we don't need to talk about those guys, because we actually have ourselves some bigger and bolder and more extravagant reporting going out there and talking about some of these teams. Let's head over to Spectre's Hockey from earlier this morning, because what Lyle Richardson did was he compiled some of the latest trade talk in regards to Vancouver and Detroit. This is a lot more flashy than talking about Tyutseyev and Sprong, unfortunately. So let's go out there and read bits and pieces of July 23rd Spectre's Hockey Report, the latest on Jason Robertson, Mason McTavish, and Evan Rodriguez. NHL.com. Dan Rosen reports trade speculation is persisting about Jason Robertson. The 26-year-old Dallas Stars winger has a year left in his contract with an AAV of $7.5 million and will become an RFA with arbitration rights next July. He also lacks no trade protection. Now, that is not necessarily new. All this is stuff that we've known throughout the course of the past few weeks here. Jason Robertson, contract is expiring. Is he an 80-point guy? Is he a 100-point guy? How much money do you pay him? And how much does he end up producing over the next few years? That's the million-dollar question. Not million-dollar question, the $7.5 million question, I guess. Rosen considers it a 50-50 possibility that Jason Robertson gets traded, indicating that it depends on if the two sides can or want to get an extension done sooner rather than later. He believes the Stars have enough cap space to make it work. However, they must ensure they have sufficient space to re-sign Thomas Harley, who is also RFA eligible next summer with arbitration rights. Now, that's a big number. 50-50? I'll quote Seth Rogen one more time. 50-50, if you were a casino game, you'd have the best odds. That's a really high chance that Jason Robertson ends up getting traded. And, you could go out there and ask who's to blame. Is it Mikko Rantanen's fault? Is it J-Rob's fault himself for not producing 100 points every year? Let's go out there and read some more, though. Sportsnet. If the Stars decide to trade Robertson, Ryan Dixon has a list of 7 potential destinations, which is where we can go over to the Sportsnet piece itself and dive into yesterday's commentary by Dixon. 7 potential destinations for Dallas Stars scorer Jason Robertson. Let's scroll past the LA Kings, the Hurricanes, the Capitals, and the Blue Jackets and talk here about Detroit, because Dixon goes out there and labels them as a trade destination. Detroit has not made the playoffs since 2016 and has not won a playoff round since 3 years before that in 2013. You could be packing your bags for college this summer in Michigan and basically have only the foggiest recollection of a postseason series victory for the Wings. It sure feels like GM Stevie Y is ready to jump, as he lamented the fact Detroit didn't even get to pitch many of the players he was interested in on July 1st, because they re-signed with teams before hitting free agency. Yeah, Sorry, Stevie Y, but condolences from Brock Besser, John Tavares, Mitch Marner, Sam Bennett, Aaron Ekblad, and I guess Noah Dobson, and you could even say Marchand too. Everybody stayed. It's only really Ehlers who ended up leaving, and Gavrikov, and then the guys who got traded, so K'Andre Miller. Stevie Y says we didn't get a chance to talk to the guys, the top free agents, because they all signed with their clubs or were traded before free agency. I'm sorry. If signing UFAs isn't a viable option to bring more scoring to the Wings, who finished 22nd in the league last year with 2.87 goals per game, maybe Detroit goes the trade route as they did with DeBrincat in July 2023. The bottom line is Detroit must find a way to push this rebuild forward, and Yzerman is more prepared to act aggressively in the name of doing so. So, what does that mean for J-Rob and the Dallas Stars? It means that Stevie Y can be in a spot where he says, yeah, we gotta do something. We gotta, force our hand somewhere. We kinda got cucked with all the free agents not re-signing with their old teams, so we just had no opportunities to do it. We gotta get a trade going. Right-handed defenseman, okay, that was a target. Aaron Ekblad, whatever. Maybe Noah Dobson could have been on the radar of Detroit, but he went to Montreal, so that wasn't able to go down. How about Jason Robertson here? Going from one D team in Dallas to another D team in Detroit, I do think that Robertson would be the perfect fit on the first line with Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond. He would add such an incredible scoring element to that top six. No doubts in my mind as to how good this top six could be with Jason Robertson on that top left wing spot instead of JVR. No disrespect to JVR, of course, but still, Jason Robertson, miles better. And everybody else gets moved down a little bit more. Maybe you're forced to trade away one of these bottom six guys in order to open up the roster spot for Robertson, but I do like the idea. Now, let's go back over onto Spectors Hockey and read some of the extra reports that are written about here at the bottom. Here's the province. Ben Kuzma believes the Vancouver Canucks could be among the suitors if the Anaheim Ducks put Mason McTavish on the trade block. Yeah, we just made a video yesterday talking about how Rick Dhaliwal was saying Mason McTavish is probably not a Vancouver target realistically because the Canucks don't have the assets to trade for him. Ben Kuzma believes otherwise, saying that Vancouver could be on that trade discussion board. The 22-year-old center has the potential to become a prime playoff performer. McTavish is an RFA without arbitration rights this summer. He's yet to sign a new contract with the Ducks, which has made him the subject of considerable trade and offer sheet speculation. Kuzma believes it would cost the Canucks a roster player, a prospect, and a pair of high draft picks to pry McTavish from the Ducks. He cited AFP Analytics projecting the young center to receiving a 6-year contract with an AAV of $6.67 million. However, Kuzma claimed his camp is pushing for $7 or $8 million annually. Hence, the impasse. This is the first report that Lyle Richardson of Spectors Hockey has seen explaining the lack of progress in McTavish contract negotiations. Others have merely speculated about his availability and what it might cost to get him. Ducks GM Pat Verbeek has a reputation as a tough negotiator, as former Duck Trevor Zegras learned the hard way. He's also warned rival GMs that he'll match any offer sheet for McTavish, assuming the latter is open to re-signing with another team. This standoff might not be resolved until training camp opens in September. The longer this goes on this summer, the more we'll hear McTavish mentioned in the rumor mill. Now, I just got to go out there and say, roster player, a prospect, and a pair of high draft picks. Okay, so you're thinking Teddy Bluger, prime prospect, Villander, and 2 firsts? I don't really know if the Vancouver Canucks are willing to part with those assets. And it's not because Mason McTavish isn't worth it. It's just Vancouver has so few assets, period, that if they traded away all that for one guy, they wouldn't really have much to look forward to. Like, I get it, Mancini and Elias Pettersson and Lekkerimäki are all good. They're fine, but, that would be it. Vancouver would be depleting most of their long-term future assets if they were to make this sort of a move. And I'm not saying that it's impossible to get the trade done. I'm not saying that at all. I think the Canucks can be very aggressive in this, and Patrick Allvin has shown he's willing to do that. But I just kind of wonder if that's really the way things are going to go down. Either way, it does conflict with the Rick Dhaliwal report from yesterday saying, oh yeah, the Canucks probably just don't have the assets. Well, they might have them, but the question is whether or not they'd want to give up all of that. So let me know in the comment section your opinions about us, firstly, skipping out on former Red Wings and Canucks guys signing with random teams across the world. But also, what are your thoughts on the Jason Robertson conversation for Detroit? What are your thoughts on Mason McTavish and the Vancouver Canucks? Does it actually make sense? Comment section is your floor. Let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.